In our day-to-day lives, there are many products that we purchase without giving them a second thought. Some of these seem so simple and straightforward that we don't even scan the list of ingredients before adding them to our shopping carts. But today, the Hub is going to make you think twice about some of your favorite products by revealing what might be lurking inside them. You won't have to think twice about where to find the greatest videos on YouTube if you subscribe to the Hub. And press the notification button to make sure you see them first. Gummy bears. It's time to round off our list with something sweet. If you enjoy the chewy texture of gummy bears, you may have guessed that they get their chewiness because of the addition of gelatin. This is also found in peach rings, gummy worms, and similar products. Although it has a pretty innocuous sounding name, gelatin is actually an animal product. It's a yellowish, odorless, and nearly tasteless substance, but the way in which it's made may make you a little queasy. Animal skin, cartilage, and bones are boiled over a long period of time to reduce their fat content. The parts are then subjected to an industrial dryer before being soaked in a vat of lime or other acid for about 5 days. Then they're boiled once more, releasing liquid that is collected, evaporated, and ground into a fine powder. See? The skin, cartilage, and bones don't get ground up and put in your burger. That's just crazy. They get ground up and put in your gummy bears. Strangely enough, gelatin actually isn't bad for you, and in fact offers some nutritional benefits and contains 18 different amino acids. And it's found in non-gummy products as well, including marshmallows, salad dressings, yogurts, and more. Burgers. A few years ago, pictures of the now infamous pink slime were all over the place, and we were told this gross-looking pink goo was in all of our fast food burgers. The pictures were so compelling that they actually brought about an ongoing lawsuit. The only thing is that the lawsuit was against ABC News for reporting false and sensationalist facts. The truth is, calling this stuff pink slime and claiming it's made of chicken beaks and eyeballs is sensationalist nonsense, but there is a small grain of truth in there. Pink slime used to be known as lean, finely textured beef and is a meat byproduct added to ground beef. Basically, it's just a filler product, but it's one that contains fatty meat that's more susceptible to contamination. But don't worry. In order to compensate for this and reduce the risk of making you sick, the meat is sprayed with ammonia to kill any pathogens. It's kind of like the old lady who swallowed the fly, then swallows a spider to get rid of it, and then it kind of spirals out of control from there, except it's like you add some meat byproduct, then you add some dangerous chemicals, etc., etc. Vanilla. Vanilla is a classic flavor, and many of us adore its simple, rich taste. In many types of cupcakes and other baked goods, a dash of vanilla extract is an essential component. You might assume that vanilla extract is simply vanilla, but since it's appearing in this video, you know it's not. It contains a certain artificial flavoring agent known as castoreum, which comes from the anal gland of beavers. Sorry to be so abrupt, we just knew there was no easy way to break that news to you. Bizarrely enough, beaver posteriors smell really good, although we're a bit put off by the first person who discovered that. Castoreum is secreted in the beaver's castor sac and is used along with urine to mark their territory. Because it smells so good, it's also used in perfume as an animalistic note. You could have very well spritzed some beaver gland secretions on yourself this morning without even knowing it. When it comes to food, it's generally listed as natural flavoring, and the FDA claims that it's safe to consume. Although its use in food is becoming increasingly rare, there is a non-zero chance that you've put something that comes out of a beaver's butt in your mouth at some point, and its use in fragrances is still going strong. Cheese. Cheese is often the perfect accompaniment to meat, so we'll make sure to ruin that for you as well. Even if you're a vegetarian, you may think that eating cheese is cruelty-free, but that's just not the case for many cheeses. Typically, cheese is created using rennet as a coagulant. What exactly is rennet? It's an enzyme produced in the stomach of baby calves, and they don't remove it by asking nicely. Some of us avoid eating veal because we can't stomach the thought of eating a calf, but those calves that escape becoming veal end up with you eating their stomachs. Of course, goat and lamb rennet can be used as well, depending on what type of cheese you're creating, but calves are the most common sort. The calf's stomach is extracted and dried, then soaked in a solution of boric acid and brine for 4 to 5 days. We're willing to bet most people don't think of this when they reach for a slice of cheese. If you find the idea of eating calf stomachs too tragic to bear, or just plain gross, there are vegetarian-safe alternatives out there. Steak. We discussed meat in general, but let's move on to a nicer cut of meat. We're not talking hot dogs or deli meat here, but a nice, fresh steak. Well, fresh is a subjective term. Even if you take care to pick out the freshest, reddest-looking steak at the supermarket, you might want to consider how it looks so good after being refrigerated for so long. It's specially treated with a number of chemicals in order to help the meat maintain its attractive appearance. Chemicals such as carbon monoxide and nitrogen, for instance. These meats are treated with these chemicals, which might sound scary, but in truth they only use trace amounts. This means that the meat is safe for human consumption, sure, but it's also disingenuous and means we could be eating way older food than we're comfortable with. This process allows meat to maintain its appearance for up to 20 days, which is way outside the window in which some of us would feel comfortable consuming it. Unless you get your steaks from a local source, it's likely you won't be able to avoid this either, as manufacturers aren't required to label packaging that includes these chemicals. Meat. If we were to tell you that package of hot dogs or sausages you have in your fridge was covered in viruses, you'd probably toss it in the garbage can. Don't worry, that won't be necessary. You see, those viruses were carefully cultivated and then put there on purpose by the manufacturer. What do you mean it doesn't make you feel better? Picky. We all know that E. coli is a seriously bad bacteria that can give you a bad case of salmonella if you eat meat infected with it. In order to fight fire with fire, the FDA approved the use of bacteriophages on meat products. In order to prevent the viruses from adapting to the bacteriophages and becoming resistant, multiple types of bacteriophages are used. So your meat isn't just being sprayed with one type of virus, but up to 6. The next time you take a bite of your sandwich, you'll know that you're consuming an epic battle between bacteria and bacteriophages. For the sake of your digestive tract, we hope you bet on the bacteriophages. Sure, it's a bit of a more roundabout solution to the E. coli problem than just using proper food handling techniques, but it is surprisingly effective. Red foods. Now more than ever, there's a huge focus on making our food look as appealing as possible. One reason our food's ingredient list tends to get a little long is due to all the additives that are included to make the food look nicer. In order to get that bright red coloring in everything from yogurt to cakes and anything else that has a red hue, a common colorant called carmine is used. Now, we have some good news and some bad news. The good news is it's definitely not made of bug poop like shellac is. The bad news is that it is made of bug parts. It's also known as cochineal extract, and you can probably find it in your makeup as well as your food. Nothing says night out on the town like lipstick made with beetles. It's created by grinding up red beetles, who are then cooked at a high temperature, which just helps bring out the brightest reds possible. You might be thinking you can avoid this by reading the ingredient list more carefully, but it's also commonly listed as natural color. We suppose that bugs are pretty darn natural, but it does still seem a bit disingenuous. Sugar. No, sugar isn't the horrifying ingredient lurking in your food that is sure to traumatize you. There is actually a strange and gross secret behind sugar that may just make you reach for the Splenda packets. We know that refined sugars, the kind used for baking or adding to your morning coffee, is made of sugar cane or sugar beets. The two substances are almost identical in terms of nutrition and taste, however they're refined very differently. In order to get that pure, delicious cane sugar, sugarcane stalks are crushed, and their juice is heated until it crystallizes. To get that nice white color, it's then filtered and bleached with bone char. If the phrase bone char gives you pause, we don't blame you. If you're thinking bone char can't possibly be as horrifying as it sounds, we're sorry to disappoint you, because it's literally charred cow bones. But don't worry, skulls and spines aren't used in order to prevent diseases. Don't you feel better already? It actually may comfort you to know that the sugar doesn't actually contain bone char, but it does absolutely come into contact with it. So you'll just have to decide how close is too close for comfort, but your sweetener to be to cow bones. Jelly beans. You've probably already eaten your way through your stash of Easter candy, but we'll go ahead and get a head start on ruining jelly beans for you next year. The truth is, the way that jelly beans are made tends to bug people for some reason, probably because insect parts are a key ingredient if we had to hazard a guess. You see that shiny outer coating on the exterior of your jelly beans? In order to get them to look shiny like that, companies apply shellac to the outside of the candy. What part of the bug does shellac come from? Well, it's more like something that comes out of a bug. That's right, shellac is made from the excrement of the female lac bug, found in the forests of India and Thailand. Their poop is processed and sold as dry flakes, and are then dissolved in ethanol in order to create liquid shellac, which can be painted onto your favorite candies. In case you thought you'd stick to Halloween candy, you should know that candy corn is also coated in shellac, along with many others of your favorite treats. This includes milk duds, raisinets, and malted milk balls. Bon appetit! Beer. Ah, beer. Few things are better on a hot summer's day than a refreshing cold beer. Before you crack open a cold one with the boys though, you may be interested to know that there's a good chance your beer contains some arsenic. Actually, it's a bit more than a light dusting of this poisonous powder. The FDA found elevated levels of arsenic in 65 samples of beer, and some of them contain over twice the amount of arsenic that's allowed in our drinking water. This occurs due to the filtering process, which utilizes diatomaceous earth as a filtering agent, and it's been around for a long time. You might not have been aware of it before, because it's only recently that testing methods have become precise enough to detect trace amounts of arsenic. Diatomaceous earth itself is actually kind of sketchy, as it's made out of diatom skeletons, which are a tiny, prehistoric algae. Oh, and if you're thinking of switching to wine, you should know that most wines use the same filtering method. The process is used to strain out plant matter, yeast, or anything else that makes your drink appear less than pristine. We're sure you'll examine the ingredients of your next meal a little more carefully after watching this video. Did we manage to ruin some of your favorite foods for you? Or will you cling to your gummy bears and cheese with all your might? Thanks for watching our video, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel before you leave. We'll see you next time.